Someone online. What's up, Devin? All right, the plan is to get good at writing formulas. Maybe you feel like you already are, and that's great. And then start naming from formulas. So you really got to be able to go both ways. In AP chemistry, it's more important to be able to write a formula from a name than the other direction, but they are both required. So here we go. This is what success looks like. And it is, what is the formula of barium phosphate? You got the answers right there. What is the name of H2SO3? I have that right there. So will you take a few minutes and see if you can do any of these? Try and do them from memory first. And then if you can't, go to your notes. If you have to, you can look up what the name of the polyatomic ion is. So take a couple minutes and do that. This is your lab partner. So if I say, tell your partner an answer, just send him a message through the chat. How does that sound? All right, Devin, I got your lab partner on. When we share stuff, she's going to type in the chat. All right, let's take about another 2 minutes. How many have most of them done? How many have none of them done? Ruh-roh. Those are both not, these are not, they're mine, right? Okay, you're welcome. Extra baked?
I don't know.
They're not cheddar jack, I can tell. Gotcha.
Can I get one of those so I can cook?
Yeah. Was anyone else absent yesterday and needs a periodic table? Pass that. Oh.
Oh, it's 2. Appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you too. All right, how we doing? All right. That's a COVID nightmare right there, Abby. Everyone's going to be quarantined in 2 days now. Now, if they were cheddar jack cheeses, I'm okay with that. Okay, raise your hands if you're done. 1, 2, you raised them earlier, right? How many of you have only 3 of them done or less? 3 or less done. Oh boy, we gotta get faster. I'm gonna move on in about 30 seconds. We'll go over them, but we're not gonna take all day on them. Yes.
So, I totally looked it up on the quick, but
That's fine.
what does this mean right there?
That means it's charge that you like. All right, I'm moving on. Tell your partner at least the answer to 1. See if you match on at least one of them. Ready, go. All right, here we go. Back to me, please. So what is the formula of the following? We have lead 2 acetate. Hopefully, let's celebrate. Do we know at least what lead is? PB, awesome. And it must be what charge? +2. If you were absent yesterday and didn't watch the video, the positive for some things are listed by the Roman numeral. Okay, then let's talk, please. Acetate is a polyatomic ion that you should have memorized. It is C2H3O2. And if you looked at it, it would have a -1 with it as well. All right, so then I have to drop and swap the charges, right? So I do not need 1 next to PB because it is 1 unless I put a different number. But I need a 2 over here, so I have to put the acetate piece in parentheses and put a 2 on the outside. Thumbs up if you had that right. All right, next, barium hydroxide. This one's a little bit tricky because it ends in IDE, so you might think it's an element. But hydroxide is one of the few polyatomic ions that end with "ide" that are still not just the element. So that is something you'll have to memorize, and it'll be a little bit tricky. So barium hydroxide. First, we have barium, which is Ba, and I know it's in family 2, so it's a +2. Now, everything I'm saying eventually has to be memorized. I know it's an overwhelming task, but for now, I don't know. You got to start putting that in. Barium's a +2. You have the periodic table, so don't memorize barium as a +2. Memorize family 2 as a +2. Okay, then hydroxide is a polyatomic ion of the formula OH, and it has a -1 charge. So now I need to drop those numbers. I don't need 1 on Ba, but I need a 2 on the OH. Who had that one right? Raise your hands. Okay. Like the whole second row didn't. I'm concerned. Oh, you did raise your hands? Okay. All right. Potassium, hydrogen, carbonate. This one blows minds because you're like, it's 3 words. I don't know what to do. Well, hydrogen carbonate is a polyatomic ion, which you need to know is HCO3. All right, so first potassium is a K. Potassium is in family 1, so it's a +1. Hydrogen carbonate. This is tricky. Carbonate is usually a -2, but it's with a hydrogen, which means it makes it a -1. So it's HCO3, and the entire piece is a -1. K was a +1. So do I need any subscripts added to it? No. Good job. It is just KHCO3. Oh, I thought you said I got it.
No.
You're good.
When do we take the test to know all of this?
in a long time still.
Okay, good.
We still got math to do on top of all this. We got a long way to go before our next test.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
But you should start memorizing it. So when we do the math, you're still not stuck on what K is. All right. Who had a KHCO3? Raise your hands. Okay. Sodium sulfite. Are we ready? Sodium is Na. It ends in ITE. That means that it's a polyatomic ion. Sulfite, from memory, is SO2 and a -2 charge. All right, that is one you should memorize. I see a lot of erasing. Did you put a 4?
Put a 4 originally, and then I realized there was a height, so I put a 3.
Oh, it is a 3. Who wrote a 3? Sorry, that's my bad. It is a 3. Chlorite is a 2. My bad. It was a 3. By the number of erasers that went, I knew I had screwed up. All right, SO3, I apologize. And the charge is still correct. So sodium's a +1 because it's in family 1. So Na2SO3. Who had that one right? Good. You guys did better than I did on that one. And then finally, magnesium and fluoride. That just means it's an F +2 -1 MgF2. All right. Now, in my opinion, this one's considered an easy one. And like a couple of these are harder ones. Hopefully they all come together eventually, and you feel all right about this process. Because I know you're not alone, but there's more than one person kind of lost still. Okay, so there's more to do on the formula writing that we haven't really scratched the surface on. So let's go ahead. All right, so this works for naming and formula writing. It's super small, but it says the foundational skill that must be mastered is to be able to determine the type of elements in the compound, like are they metals and nonmetals, which would mean we treat it like an ionic. And if there are metalloids, I don't know if you're trying to take notes here, anybody. I'll make it bigger if I can. Metalloids, it just depends on where they are. They're treated as metals if they are listed first in the formula or the name, and as nonmetals if they are listed second in the formula or the name. All right. Now, we've been focusing here on ionic. In ionic, we have a metal and a nonmetal. Now, the nonmetal could be a polyatomic ion. It still has nonmetals in it. So we have to know their charges. We'd have to know the polyatomic ions. We need to know the names or the formula of the elements, and then we got to balance charges. Okay, that's like the whole process involved. We're going to spend a few minutes here now on naming acids. Acids can really be tricky. I would, if I were you, you're not required to, but at some point I would just memorize the top 3 most common acids, and that will get you through most things. But for an acid, which is the formula of HXA-, it has sometimes an oxyanion. You need to know the actual name of them, and sometimes it's the polyatomic ion. We'll talk about this. Binary compounds, in my opinion, are the easiest of all of them. Like carbon dioxide, that is a binary compound, and it's called carbon dioxide because it's carbon, and then there's di means 2 oxygens, carbon dioxide. We'll talk about this, but then in names, it's prefixes. And then we have our organic compounds. We have carbon and hydrogen compounds. For AP chemistry, you're not really required to remember how to name every organic thing, for sure. I teach you a little saying that I think it covers everything. It's MEPB, then remember geometry. And then it ends with ein, or ein, and it's based on this math, which right now doesn't make any sense, but we'll show you what we mean over time. So let's jump in. We're still formula writing. I know that says naming, but these work for both. Okay, so this is where we can kind of figure out our name endings, which help us with the formulas. Okay, so a lot of this goes both directions. When you read something and it ends with "ide," it usually means the non-metal, it sounds like. So oxide sounds like O, or oxygen. Now, in chemistry, the hardest part of chemistry is that there's never a real straight 100% true answer. So usually this works. There are exceptions to this rule, and I probably won't remember all of them, but here are a few that end in "ide" that are not just the elements. So we have cyanide. Cyanide, if you look at the periodic table, there's no like cyanide, there's no cyene, there's no cyithium, it's not there. So we can't just take "ide" and convert this into an element. Cyanide is a polyatomic ion with the formula of Cn, and I think it's a -1. It's been a while. All right, so this is a word that ends with "ide" that is not an element. Hydroxide. And that is OH with a -1 charge. All right, this in AP, they really don't usually test this one. But we have peroxide. And peroxide is a little bit different thing. It's a O2 with a negative charge. It acts really weird. You've heard of hydrogen peroxide, that's H2O2. Don't stress on peroxide. BB, do you have your naming schematic in front of you? Okay, go to the, nope. Leave it on the front page where the polyatomic ions are on it. Hold it up for me. Nope, flip it over, you're right. The bottom left, second one up. Nope, left, 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 left. Does that say, is the ending hydroxide? Yeah. Read them all. Okay, so I did get the 3 that we need to worry about. Thank you. You don't. I know, it sucks, huh? Okay, so cyanide, hydroxide, and peroxide. These are the 3. I'll refer to things a lot in this class as red flags. Red flags are the things that if you see them, that means danger. Or it means they're different than most things. Everything else that we have that ends in "ide just means the element. But these 3 mean polyatomic ions. Okay, ATE. There's a lot to ATE. ATE, or the ending "ate," means the most common oxyanion that it sounds like. You're like, what? So phosphate. ATE really means we are taking this element and we're adding oxygen to it. We're making it an oxyanion, an anion that has oxygen in it. All right, so here's where it gets weird, and that's to know which one's the most common. When in doubt, if you're ever confused, most common, the ATE means O3, but not all the time. All right, so let's talk about ATE and the base and how we move things. All right, so if you see phosphate, ignore the top for a second. If you see phosphate, you know it is an oxyanion. For phosphorus, the most common combination of P's and O's is PO4. So if we had potassium phosphate, we'd put a K and we'd put PO4, and I have memorized that that's a 3 K's of 1, so K3PO4. If we ever see ITE, we subtract 1 from the base. For phosphate, it's PO4. So if I subtract 1 from 4, I get PO3. All right, so if I go 1 down, my 8 turns to ite. Then if I can go 2 down from the base, my 8 becomes hypo, meaning less than ITE. And so it's 1 less than what the ITE would be. Now we can go up, but not with phosphate, because all oxyanions, the maximum oxygens that can be shared is 4. So it doesn't have more than 1. Okay, so we could see phosphate, phosphide. That just means the element. Phosphate, that means PO4. Phosphite, that means PO3. Hypophosphite means PO2. Now, this took me forever to get good at. If you're just thinking I'm speaking a foreign language right now, then you feel exactly how I felt. I'll be completely honest with you. I passed this in high school because I wrote it all on my hand. I cheated.
Does that mean we can't do?
Nope. I will cut you. No, you should not. But it was hard for me. I know your pain. And I love and appreciate you, but I didn't take AP either. I took moron chemistry with the trainer. So you guys stepped it up. You don't need to cheat. You're all geniuses, right? All right. So if, my friends, if you memorize your polyatomic ions, then you would know phosphate is what formula? If you did, you would know it's PO4 and a -3. And then you'd know ite was 1 less, hypo was 2 less.
So as far
Go
as
ahead.
the charges, how does that affect that?
Does not affect the charge.
So it's all
It
net
sure
minus-
seems like it should, but it does not change its charge.
What?
Phosphate is always a -3 in any version. And the nice thing is the charge of the polyatomic ion stays the same as its parent, which is phosphide, phosphorus. The oxyanion does not change the
So
charge.
whenever we don't know the charge, we just look at our.
Yep, you can find it on there. Okay, the most common one that will be used, it's on the next page, but I'm going to write it again, is chlorate. This is the most common one that we use in AP. All right. Has anyone memorized what chlorate is? ClO3. With what charge? -1. If you didn't know, you'd think, well, it's in chlorine's group, so it's probably a -1. All right. Now, here we go. I said it a minute ago, but the maximum amount of oxygens is what? 4. So I could have 1 more. And it'd be a -1. If we go up, the nomenclature rule is we add per. And then we put chlorate. Per means more. So we have more chlorate or more oxygens. All right. Well, if there's 4, there's 3, there's probably a 2. ClO2, it would be 1 less than 8. So how does its name change? Nice job. Chlorite. It's 1 less. This is the base. I know it's the base because I memorized chlorate was a ClO3, and just plain ATE is your base. Yep. So we have ClO -1, and it would be called hypochlorite. Hypo means less than chlorite. If chlorite's a 2, then hypo means it's a 1. All right, I have a question for you to ask your partners and discuss for a second. The question is, does per sulfate exist? Have that conversation. All right, Devin, type your answer in so your lab partner can see that. Does per sulfate exist?
No.
That's okay. Cheating's fine for right now. I need that like polling software. All right, have you had that discussion yet? So my question then, does per sulfate exist? What's our answer to that? No, because you've memorized sulfate is SO4 with a -2. In order to be a per, it had to be SO5, and the maximum oxygen is a 4. Yes, it's because you can't, this is confusing. We'll learn this type of stuff, but we have S clouds and P clouds. And if you want a bond, they have to share, and the max number they can share is 1, 2, 3, 4 places. There's not a fifth option to overlap. I don't know if that made sense, but that's how it works. Okay, it will. And you're like, oh, I remember that. And the truth is, this is sort of false, but it's what we're going with. Right. It's exactly the right answer. Okay, I got a question then. Tell your partner what hyposulfite would be. Hyposulfite. Do I help you stay focused, or we're just smarter?
It's just like I just feel more comfortable.
Okay, good. All right, here we go. My group behind me, they said SO2, -2. Raise your hands if you agree. Okay. I would like you to write all 4 versions of bromate. Bromate. That's all I'm giving you. It's bromate. Give me all of them. Sam, you don't have to type that in. That might be weird. Like hard to type all of them. You gonna play Viewmont today?
Yeah.
Are they good?
We played them in tournament. I don't know when, but we won in 5 games, but we also played super duper bad the first set and didn't have to.
Got you. Okay, so they're medium. Got you. You do seem like you're in a slump.
Yeah.
Not you, but the team.
Help us out a little bit.
All right, are we ready? We ready? I'm super ready. So bromate is not one you have to memorize, correct? But where's bromate in reference to chlorine? Or sorry, where's bromine? They're in the same family, right? So they will have the same characteristics of oxyanions. So bromate, whoops, bromate would be BrO3 minus 1. So that means I can have BrO4 minus 1, BrO2 minus 1, and BrO minus 1. So bromate, what would the one above it be called? Tell your partner, not me. Perbromate. What would this be called? Bro, oh, hey, mite. And then hypobromite. That looks like a D, that's a T, I promise. Okay, now having just said what I said, let me throw in why chemistry sucks. What is the base for phosphate? PO4 minus 3, right? Okay. What is the base for nitrate? NO3. What's its charge? -1.
Wait.
So I've said a lot of things like, hey, when in doubt, it's probably this, but there's always backstabbers. Okay, you never know who it is. NO3, it is. NO3 is a -1. It's called nitrate. You can have pernitrate, doesn't really exist, but you could. Nitrite definitely exists. Hyponitrite could have it, doesn't really exist. So here are the ones you should memorize. And I mean, all of them are on there. You should definitely know sulfate is SO4 minus 2. These are not in any particular order. I don't know what he just said, but it was probably fascinating. Nitrate, NO3 minus 1. We'll use nitrate all year. Like it's the most common thing we'll talk about, nitrate and acetate. All right, sulfate, nitrate, phosphate, PO4 minus 3, and chlorate. When you get to oxyanions, if you memorize these 4 and their base, that they are the base, and you know how to do the rest, you'll know pretty much every standard polyatomic oxyanion. All right. Whew. Are you having fun? Sam, how's Devin doing? He just straight up abandoned you. Is he in a different time zone? Because he logged on forever ago. Lake Powell? Oh, he probably got, he left, probably lost service. All right. All right, will you do me a favor and scan that? I hope it still works. Did it work for you guys? Okay. I don't even know what this looks like. What do you got? All right, so there are 20. See if you can do 5. And just, if you get an iPad, yeah, I have to unlock it, so hand it right back to me when you're done. If you want an iPad, I have to unlock it, so you walk over here. okay. When you're done, these got to come right back to my hand because I got to lock them back up. If you can do it on your phone, that's great.
Corbett, head down. Hold Corbett, head down. And Isaac.
Holy smokes. Sorry, come this way. Of what? One. Oh, I never talked about that, did I? Holy smokes, kids. This is when guided access isn't cool. It's okay. You're welcome.
What do you mean it's locked?
It's locked on guided access, so you can't use the camera. Okay, give it a shot. Whoa, whoa. Because that's a really old camera lens, probably. Okay, I should tell you something. I skipped the slide clearly. There are a couple metals that are transition metals that have fixed charges. And silver is one of them. Uh-oh, where did I put my pen? Silver, which is Ag, is a +1. Yep, always. Zinc is one of them, and it's always a +2. Nickel is not one of them. Aluminum, that's not considered a transition metal. Where on earth did I put my black pen? Yep, I would like to write them, but I'm losing my mind. So Ag is a +1. Zinc is a +2. And cadmium +2. Yep.
Oh, I know you have this.
That actually makes no sense.
I just like put it back in.
I can't wait. Oh, so close.
Oh, were you trying to get it?
I was trying to stick it to the side. Yeah. Don't worry, I found my pen. And then I threw it on the ground. Like in my pen holder. So I just like flipped it on my back. It was close. I can do it from a lot of different places. Did I wave at you after school yesterday or your sister?
Huh?
I waved at either you or your sister after
It's probably
school.
my sister.
She looked at me really weird.
Yeah.
It's okay.
She's a sophomore.
How old's yours? Sophomore or freshman? She taller than you? Never mind, I didn't ask that question. Okay, how many have we done? How many do you guys do?
I did like fun.
You're confused on which one? What does it say? Okay. So what's the formula for silver? Nitrate. What's silver's charge? Because I just told you a minute ago. It's just is. It just is. Like literally, you memorize it. There's 3 of them right here. Silver, cadmium, and zinc. Those 3 are fixed, even though they're in the transition area. So I can tell you silver is a +1 because it gives one of its D shell electrons away in a bond. But you don't know that till chapter 7 or 8. You won't understand that or know that till chapter 8. Okay. Okay. The Roman numeral, the Roman numerals. So it's just AgNO3, right?
Just because it doesn't like.
Well, the problem is you didn't read it right. That says IDE. So that's just Ag and N. N's a 3. N's a -3. That's not good. That's a nice solid F-. Yeah, it's tricky. Ooh, my boxes are on today. How much?
I'm at 61.
Nice. Who has the highest percent? I got a 61. 84? 100? Have you done 1? How many have you done? 5? Okay.
My 700 is Captain.
I believe you.
Who's 700?
What's that? You just chill for a minute. Just read. The book thief. You have to. Okay. Wherever you're at, we're going to end this in about 2 minutes.
When can we change the signature?
Oh.
What if there's some?
All right, here we go. If you borrowed one of my iPads, just put it on top of the box and I'll have my TA lock them all up. She's awesome. Yes. So, hey, no, I just thought, I just don't want you to take stupid pictures. That's why they're locked in the first place. Tim? I unlock him for 10 seconds and look. Isaac is a handsome man though, so we'll be fine. Alyssa was telling me at the camp out. Just want to see if you'd blush. Look at me. All right. Oh, that's upside down. Here we go. What? To make you feel awkward? Did it work?
Yeah, how do you know where it's at?
You just watch up there.
I know, but like, how? Like, how long did it take you to get used to it? When you
Like a day. It would take you less than that. All right, my friends. Are we ready for things to get a little bit worse? All right. We have 9 minutes. I can't just, okay. This is called inorganic nomenclature. This is going the other direction now. All right, so inorganic, this mostly means ionic bonds, okay? So we're still in ionic bonds, but now instead of finding the formula, we're going to try and teach you how to find the name. Some kids think this is way easier. Some kids think it's a lot harder. It's up to you, I guess. So they're pretty easy. If I just gave you like Na2O, says write the name of the cation ion. So what's the name of Na? Sodium. If the anion is an element, is O an element? Yeah, change its ending to ide. Oxide. If, well, it's not, so I'm done. Does it have more than one possible charge? Does Na have more than one possible charge? No. What I mean by that, does it live in no man's land over here except for Ag, zinc, and Cd? No. So it's just plain sodium oxide. In the name, I don't have to write the charges unless I'm down here. So naming just a standard ionic compound is a piece of cake. You name the metal and non-metal ide. Or if the second piece is a polyatomic ion, you simply write the name of the polyatomic ion. So if I had Na2SO4, I would write the name of the cation. Its name is sodium still. Is this a single element? No, so I need to write the name of that, which I should have memorized, is sulfate. Then I would be done. I don't need to write sodium 1 sulfate. I don't need to write sodium like 2 sulfate, sodium disulfate. I don't need any of that crap. I write sodium sulfate. And that would tell me I have 2 NAs bonded to 1 sulfate. Okay, then it gets trickier here. If I say I have lead 2 sulfate, then I'm in a little bit different situation here. So PbSO4. I would write the name of the cation, which is lead. All right, but then if the cation is like lead, it has more than one possible charge. Write the charge as a Roman numeral in parentheses. Okay, now this one's tricky. We have to know the charge of this lead. How on earth do I figure that out? I look at the charge of sulfate, which is what? -2, right? And since there is one lead, it must be the opposite charge, but same value. Did that make sense to anyone? That's a lot trickier than people think. All right, so this would be lead, Roman numeral 2, and then I name this sulfate. Sound okay? Lead 2 sulfate. If you want to put lines across the top, that's absolutely correct. without them, it's fine too. All right, there is a polyatomic ion I have not done an example with yet. And it is NH4, like OH. This piece right here, that is a polyatomic ion, and it's at the front. So that means it's positive. NH4 is the substance called ammonium. It's right there. Ammonium. It's the only positive, whoops, I forgot that right here. It's the only positive cation. So if you found NH4OH, you'd write ammonium, and then you'd have OH, which is hydroxide.
It's the only positive cation?
Polyatomic cation. I might have said that wrong. Thank you. So all the polyatomic ions are negative except for NH4. Fair enough? All right. So that's not the hardest thing. So I have all the answers right there. Don't look. So what's the name of NaClO3? We write sodium, and we write ClO3's name, which is chlorate. Then I want to do the bottom one specifically, Au3PO42. We'll call it good after this. The words it would have said, no, sorry, it was the formula. Au3PO42. All right, and I want to know its name. Okay, well, what's the name of Au? Gold. Then, what's this thing called? No, phosphate. Now, I'm leaving some space in the middle on purpose. Gold phosphate. I need to know the charge of this one. You may have seen it before on the other slide. I'm going to use what, instead of calling the drop and swap, I'm going to call it the hop and swap. What's this is a +3. Sorry, -3, -3. What must this be then? A +2. So my Roman numeral would be gold 2 phosphate. Now you're like, what? We'll work on it. What's 2 times 3? What's 2 times -3? That equals 0, right? So I know I'm good. So Au3PO42 be gold 2 phosphate. Okay, that same thing I showed you yesterday with practice problems has the other direction too. I would start looking at both of those. Raise your hands if you know what I'm talking about. That's the front row and the back row. So it's on canvas. I got a minute. Those that need to know, pay attention. Those that don't, be silent. All right, so you go to Canvas. Don't be slow. AP. We're going to go to the second unit, chapter 2. Formula writing and naming practice materials right here. It has 25 of both kinds. If you need more help, like on naming, watch this video. It'll talk through a handful of them, like all of them. It will tell you how to do them. So please, if you're still struggling, use those resources. Try them on your own first. Did anyone use these last night? Anybody study? A single human being? Thank you for making me feel validated.